everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kay, and today I'm going to be doing a spoiler-free review of The Shadowed Sun by N.K. Jemisin. This is the second book in the Dreamblood duology, follows The Killing Moon. So if you have not read The Killing Moon, don't watch this review, because there will be spoilers for the first book. So The Shadowed Sun, like I said, is the kind of sequel companion to The Killing Moon. It takes place 10 years after. We are following new characters. So in this book we are following Hanani, who is a female sharer acolyte. The Hetwa only allows men to serve, but she has kind of found a couple people to kind of help her and support her in her bid to become a sharer and be able to serve the goddess. So like any kind of story you hear where they favor one gender over another, she has to work twice as hard and do twice as well as a man would do just to be kind of grudgingly accepted in this world. So she is trying to be a sharer, which is another path within the Hetwa. She can heal people, so she uses the magic that she herself can collect and then the dream blood that only gatherers can collect, and she uses that to both physically and mentally, spiritually kind of heal people. Doesn't always work, obviously, especially with things of a mental or spiritual nature. It can't, she can't always mend that pain, but she does everything she can, and it seems to be that she is really quite gifted at it. So despite everyone else around her thinking that she shouldn't even be there and kind of treating her with disdain, she is actually very good. Our other main character is Wanahoman. He is the exiled prince. So he is the favored son of the prince from The Killing Moon. He managed to escape the city after his father was killed and has been living out in the desert with the Bambara tribe, who are like a desert nomad people. They're termed as barbarians throughout the book. They're much more violent. They raid caravans and travelers and things like that. So they are definitely much more violent. And that's where he has been living for the last 10 years along with his mother. So his main goal, obviously, is to kind of get enough followers and kind of build up an army and retake the city from the Kisuwa, who have, since the end of the last book, moved in kind of, it's called the Kiswati Protectorate. So they govern the city and they have soldiers everywhere, and it's not going well because of the differing beliefs. Kisuwa does not allow magic of the type that they practice in Gujera. There are obviously a lot of kind of problems and conflicts just within that, but Wanahoman feels like it's his duty and I guess his kind of divine right to go in and take back his city and protect his people and their way of life. The main conflict within this book, aside from Wana trying to, go to war, is that there are a lot of people dying from nightmares. So it's kind of like a plague. It's contagious. If you sleep within the vicinity of someone who has these nightmares, you get infected with them as well, and eventually they will kill you. It's not apparent at first that it's connected, that people are in fact dying of these nightmares, because people try to kind of cover it up and they don't want people to know that, something might be going wrong with one of their relatives or anything like that. But eventually it is kind of revealed, oh, this is more of an epidemic that's happening. We should be very concerned. They try to heal it. One of the sharers tries to heal someone suffering from this nightmare, and it actually kills them. So they're at a loss as to how to help these people, and basically they end up just kind of sequestering them off by themselves until they can figure out somehow some way to save them. And that's our main conflict in the book, is this nightmare plague, and then couple that with the looming possibility of war with Wanahoman and the Kiswa. I really enjoyed this book. I will say right up front though that there should be, you should be aware that there is an instance of attempted rape and a young woman being raped by her father. Basically, he's been molesting her for years. I was caught off guard by that. It happens very early in the book, like the chapter you get that kind of reveals that. And it definitely threw me at first, because like, whoa. It does have an integral part to play. Both instances do have an integral part to play within the story of the book. So it's not just like, off the cuff, oh, we need to manufacture a conflict type of thing. It does become an integral part of the story. But just so that anyone who might have issues with that is aware that that is in this book. Like I said, I really liked this book. I liked it even more than The Killing Moon. I enjoyed Hanani as a character, kind of figuring out how to be true to who she is and still achieve, her goals. She wants to be a sharer. She wants to help people and heal people. But she also doesn't want to have to cut off an entire part of her life, because in order to be a sharer, she has to dress and behave like a man. And so she's viewed as not really female, and by being in the Hetwa, they have to give up basically everything. They have to sacrifice any other life outside of their chosen path. So they can't have families, they can't have relationships, nothing like that. And it's a lot to sacrifice. She kind of has this journey throughout the book in discovering how to walk the path in the way that she wants to walk it. And then you have Wanahoman, who at the beginning absolutely hates the Hetwa in every way because the gatherers killed his father. I think he witnessed it. But he is also in a bit of denial over who his father was and how, the actions that his father was taking. So at the beginning, he is very aggressive and not violent, but just he has a lot of hate. And so he finds it very difficult to even speak to anyone from the Hetwa. Gatherers, shares, it doesn't matter. Anyone involved with the temple, he has difficulties even dealing with. And you see him kind of, throughout the book, make the same kind of journey. He has to figure out who he is. He has to figure out who his father was and really admit to himself the kind of person that his father was, and be able to see things from both sides, because he does want to be a leader. He wants to raise his people up and take care of them, and in order to do that, he has to work with the Hetwa, because that is such a huge part of their culture and their society, is this religion, that he has to work with them. So he has to kind of get over his baggage and learn to deal with them. And the way that works out through this book, I thought was very, very well done. I have read, this makes 3 complete series, plus her book of short stories, all by N.K. Jemisin, and I have really enjoyed them all. Each has had kind of a different approach, totally different world building, but all of them I feel like have had very believable, solid characters. I did have a little bit of trouble at the beginning, kind of getting into it, similar to The Killing Moon. I had the same problem. It took 50 to 100 pages before I was able to really get immersed in the story and kind of compulsively pick it up to read it. And I had the same thing here. I think mostly the first book was like getting used to the world and the rules and the magic, because it's kind of weird. And this one, I think it had more to do with just getting used to new characters, because obviously after reading the first, you're pretty well situated within the world and how it works, but now it's all new characters. You do get a couple chapters from Tsunandi's point of view, who was in the first book. She was one of the point of view characters. She is from Kisawa. She was like a diplomat, and now she has basically been kind of partially in charge of Gujarat. They've kind of stationed her as being in charge on the ground. She's still under the oversight of the government back in Kiswa, but in the city she's kind of making a lot of the decisions and deciding how things work. And so you do get a couple chapters from her. You see Najiri, who was the gatherer apprentice from the first book. In this book he is now a full-on gatherer. He does have, he's not overly present, but he is there, and you see some of the other gatherers from the first book mentioned and kind of they have a little bit of page time. So you do have some familiar faces from the first book, but by and large, it is mostly new characters. There is a third point of view character, or I guess technically fourth. I've talked about 3. So there's a fourth point of view character. You get her not too often, I don't think. And her name is Tyanette, or something of that nature. I don't know, like I said, pronunciation is hard, especially with these names and places. They're, I think, influenced and inspired by kind of Egyptian stuff, and I have no idea how to pronounce things. So I'm just going with whatever kind of might sound vaguely correct. I don't know. Anyway, you have her. She is the daughter of like a nobleman, and they're kind of the third leg on this stool. You have the Hetawa, you have Wanahoman representing kind of the royalty, the throne, and then you have the noble people who have managed to maintain some sort of power within the city, within politics, and they're trying to form an alliance with Wanahoman as well to kind of overthrow the Kiswa. And so she kind of represents that faction of the story. I gave this book 5 stars. There's a really nice romantic plotline throughout that I really enjoyed. And it's funny because pretty much every book I've read up to now that I've reviewed or talked about, it's like, yeah, it had romance and I'm not a huge fan. I don't really normally care for that. And then here I am, and I did really enjoy it in this book. It was subtle. It felt kind of natural, and it didn't become a huge part of the story. It didn't overtake the story and what was going on, and you didn't see motivations kind of shift just because of the romance. Everyone still had their own goals in mind, and they were still making decisions for themselves, and that's the type of romance I think that I do enjoy. It's been a while since I read a book and was like, oh, I really enjoyed the romance in that book, rather than kind of, you know, not caring for it. So that was a pleasant surprise reading this book. I was not expecting a romance at all. So that was a really nice surprise when I started reading it. So I think that's as much as I want to say about this book within the spoiler-free video. I will do a spoilery review later and go more into kind of the details and the spoilery bits that I enjoyed or that didn't work for me, etc. Later on. So that's all I have for today. Thanks for sticking around. Like and subscribe down below if you want. Leave a comment if you have read this book or just have anything fun to say. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!